You are not exhausted because you lack ability. Pause for a few seconds and look directly at this truth. You may not be exhausted because you lack talent. You may not even be exhausted because life has been too unfair to you. Maybe the problem lies somewhere else. You have become so accustomed to comfort that, whenever life gets difficult, your first instinct is to run away. You wake up. You pick up your phone. You scroll through the lives of strangers. Someone is making more money than you. Someone has a better body than you. Someone is traveling. Someone just bought a new house. And within just a few minutes, you start comparing your life to images you do not even know are real. You feel slower, less capable, less successful. Then you reach for the next comfortable thing: a video, a meal, a meaningless conversation, a few hours of scrolling, an excuse to procrastinate, and by the end of the day, you still feel empty. The problem is not comfort. Comfort is not the enemy. The problem is when you become its slave. Because when you always choose what is easy, your ability to endure what is difficult gradually becomes weaker, just like a muscle that is never used. It does not disappear immediately. It simply becomes weaker, little by little. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the Stoics faced a world completely different from ours. War, disease, exile, slavery, betrayal, death. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor, but power could not help him control war, disease, or death. Epictetus was once a slave, but he understood that even when people lose much of their external power, they still have one thing they can train: the way they judge and respond to whatever happens. Seneca had wealth and status, but he still spent time reflecting on loss and death. They were not looking for an easy life. They were looking for a way to live rightly, in a world that was never easy. And today, you're going to go through 10 Stoic laws that can change the way you see adversity, emotions, failure, time, and yourself. But remember one thing: the 8th law is the hardest, because it does not ask how strong you are. It asks a harder question. Who will you become when no one is watching? Think about the last time life truly upset you. You were rejected. A plan failed. A friend betrayed you. A job disappeared. An opportunity you thought was guaranteed to be yours suddenly vanished. Our first reaction is usually, "Why me?" But try changing the question. Not, "Why is this happening to me?" but, "What can I do with this now?" That is the first shift in Stoic thinking. Marcus Aurelius lived through a period filled with war and disease. He could not order a disease to disappear. He could not make his enemies surrender willingly. He could not force the weather to become pleasant, but he could decide how he would act. That is what matters. Adversity does not automatically make you stronger. The way you face adversity can. One rejection can teach you persistence. One failed plan can teach you adaptability. One loss can force you to reconsider what truly matters. Not every form of suffering has meaning, but you can choose to create meaning from what you have experienced. So the next time life disappoints you, do not immediately ask, "Why does life treat me this way?" Ask, "What kind of person is this situation asking me to become?" That is the first law. Do not run from adversity. Learn to stand in front of it. A car cuts you off. You honk. A cruel comment appears under your video. You read it over and over all night. Someone cancels your plans at the last minute. You get angry. Someone close to you says something that hurts you. You carry that anger with you all day. Stop. Someone else just did something. But they are no longer here. So why are they still controlling your mind? Epictetus placed particular emphasis on the difference between what is within our control and what is not within our control. You cannot decide what other people say. You can't force them to be kind. You cannot make everyone understand you. But you can train your own response. That is where freedom begins. Try one simple rule. The next time someone makes you angry, do not react immediately. Pause for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Then ask, will this reaction actually help me? If it will, act. If will not, let it go. Not because you are weak, but because you understand that calm is more valuable than winning a meaningless argument. Other people can trigger your emotions, but you do not have to give them the power to decide what you are next. The pause between stimulus and response is where you begin taking back your autonomy. You work hard. Someone else gets promoted. You are loyal. Someone else betrays you. You are the right thing. But the person doing the wrong thing seems to be living a better life. And you start asking, why is life so unfair? Because life never promised to be fair to you. That is a difficult truth to accept, but it can also set you free. Marcus Aurelius had to face betrayal in his own empire. Even an emperor could not make everyone loyal. Neither can you. You cannot make your co-workers fair. You cannot make your boss always regging you. You cannot make other people return your kindness in the way you want them to. But there is one thing that still belongs to you, the way you choose to act. If other people are unfair, do not let their unfairness turn you into a bitter person. If someone betrays you, do not let that make you lose your ability to believe in what is right. If other people live without principles, that is not a reason for you to abandon yours. You do not need the world to become better before you can live with integrity. You only need to decide, I will not let other people's behavior determine who I become. That is a very quiet form of strength. No need to prove anything. No need for revenge. No need for the approval of the crowd. You only need to know that you did the right thing. There are days when you worry about dozens of things. The market, your job, the algorithm, other people's opinions, the weather, a conversation that happened yesterday, something that might happen next month. But ask yourself, how much of this do I actually control? Very little. Epictetus began Stoic thinking with this very distinction. There are things that belong to us: judgment, intention, choice, action, response. And there are things that do not completely belong to us: reputation, possessions, the body, other people's behavior, the final outcome. Imagine that you are steering a boat through a storm. You can't order the sea to stop producing waves. You cannot negotiate with the wind. You can ask the sky to clear, but you can hold the wheel, adjust the sails, keep the crew from panicking. That is Stoic thinking. Not, I will control everything, but I will do the best I can with what belongs to me. You can't control whether other people like you, but you can control how you treat them. You can't control the market, but you can improve your skills. You can't control the outcome of a project, but you can control the quality of today's work. So when anxiety appears, ask, is this within my direct power to act on? If yes, act. If not, do not spend the entire day arguing with reality. You do not have to wait for life to teach you how to endure. You can practice forehand. Seneca, despite living in wealth, sometimes practiced periods of living far more simply than his actual circumstances required. The purpose was not to hate wealth, nor was it to seek suffering. The purpose was to test, if the things I have disappeared, would I still be able to stand? That is a frightening question, and also a very useful one. Try small things. One day without buying something you do not need. A period of time without your phone. A workout when you do not feel motivated. Waking up on time instead of hitting the snooze button. A simple meal. A period of sitting quietly without entertainment. Not to punish yourself, but to remind yourself. I can live without immediately satisfying every desire. Comfort becomes dangerous when you cannot live without it. Discipline begins when you can say, I want this, but I do not need it. Practice discomfort while life is still peaceful, because when the storm comes, you will not have to learn how to stand from scratch. You work out for 1 week. You do not see any muscle. You quit. You start a project. A month passes without making any money. You conclude that you have failed. You create content. A few videos get no views. You think you are not capable. This is one of the biggest traps of being human. We often judge ourselves by things we do not completely control. Think about an archer. He can choose the bow, check the string, adjust his stance, study the distance, focus, draw the string, aim carefully. But once the arrow leaves his hand, Many factors are no longer under his control. The wind can change. The target can move. An unexpected factor can appear. So what is the archer's responsibility? Not obsessing over the outcome, but doing his part as well as possible. That is Stoic thinking. You control effort, preparation, discipline, the quality of your actions, but you do not completely control the outcome. So, if you write better. If you train better. If you build a career, create value. If you create content, improve the quality of your videos. Do not let one number determine your worth. The outcome is information. It is not a verdict on who you are. Now, try to imagine something. You know for certain that you have only 1 year left. Would you still spend 4 hours a day scrolling through social media? Would you still keep postponing that important conversation? Would you still live only to please people you do not even truly care about? Probably not. Because when time becomes limited, meaningless things begin to lose their appeal. That is the power of Memento Mori. Remember that you will die. It sounds dark, but to the Stoics, it was not an invitation to despair. It was a reminder to live more consciously. Seneca reflected deeply on how people often complain that life is too short, while wasting a large portion of the time they actually have. Marcus Aurelius also frequently reminded him that death could come at any moment, not to create fear, but to ask, if today were one of the last days of my life, what would truly be worth doing? Think about that. You are angry about a comment on the internet, but one day, no one will remember that comment. You are worried because someone does not like you. One day, that will not matter either. You are procrastinating on something meaningful, and time keeps moving, quietly, without warning, second by second, minute by minute, day by day. You do not know how much time you have left, but you know one thing for certain: you are using a portion of it right now. So, do not use Memento Mori to fear death. Use it to stop wasting your life. Tomorrow may never come, but today is still here, and whatever belongs to today. Zoe, this is the final law, and also the hardest one, because the first 7 laws ask, how much can you endure? How much can you control yours? How can you face adversity? But the final law asks, what will you do when no one is watching? You can post a picture of yours being disciplined. But are you really disciplined when there is no camera? You can talk about integrity, but will you tell the truth when lying would help you make more money? You can say that you not need approval, but do you really live that way when no one is applauding? This is where Stoicism goes much deeper than simply becoming strong. The goal is not just to endure more. The goal is to live according to virtue. In other words, do the right thing because it is right, not because you will be rewarded. Not because it will be posted online, not because other people will know, not because you will receive a round applause. Marcus Aurelius had everything a person could use to seek recognition: power, status, fame. But his own reminders reveal something important. The approval of the crowd cannot become the foundation of a good life, because the crowd can praise you today. Tomorrow they can turn against you. If your worth depends on that, you will always be controlled by it. So, keep your promise when no one knows you kept it. Work hard when no one praises you. Tell the truth when lying would be easier. Be kind when you gain nothing from that kindness. Hold on to your principles, even when breaking them would bring you an immediate advantage. That is true strength, not applause, not the image you create, but the person you become in moments when there is no audience. When you no longer need other people to see you as a good person, you begin to truly live according to what you believe is right. If you have made it this far, remember, these 8 laws are not quotes you listen to and then feel inspired by for a few minutes. They are principles that must be practiced. Adversity will still come. Other people will still disappoint you. The world will still have unfairness. You will still fail. You will still have days when you feel lost. And there will still be times when you act on instinct. Stoicism does not promise that you will never be weak. It only reminds you, you can come back. Come back to what you control. Come back to your principles. Come back to the right action. And now, do not command that you are going to change. Do not make a promise to me. Prove it to yourself. Over the next Jaime-born hours, choose one thing you know you have been putting off. A conversation you have been avoiding. A task you keep pushing to tomorrow. 2 hours of work without your phone. A workout you have made every excuse to skip. Or something even simpler. When someone makes you angry, stay silent for 3 seconds before reacting. Just one thing. You do not need to change your entire life in one day. You only need to prove that. You still have the power to choose what you are next. Because you do not need an easy life. You need a mind strong enough to live rightly, in a life that is not easy. Tomorrow, the world will still contain things beyond your control, but your next response still belongs to you. Start there.